Greetings from the middle of the mighty Zambezi in Zambia, and welcome to the second video cast in the LFMA's new Geopolitics and Markets series, in which I shall be trying to cut through all the political noise to get to what really matters to investors. Although the cacophony which surrounded Donald Trump's 2 April reciprocal tariffs bombshell has now toned down somewhat, levels of uncertainty have not. First, the clock continues to count down towards the end of Mr. Trump's 90-day suspension of the reciprocal tariffs, due on 8 July, with no one having any real idea of what happens next. Second, seemingly random tariff-related events persist, e.g., the 11 April exempting, possibly only temporarily, of iPhones, etc. from tariffs, and the 21 April imposition of tariffs of up to 3,521% on solar-related imports from 4 Southeast Asian economies. Third, sources in Japan, which is in the front of the queue to strike a deal with the US, confirm that Washington keeps changing its demands, making deal-making all but impossible. Compounded by Mr. Trump's escalating assaults on Jay Powell, all this has caused markets to draw the obvious conclusion about the US's economic policy making, i.e., as Tim Harford wrote in the FT on 19 April, and I quote, "Stock market investors have decided that the problem wasn't really the tariffs, because they would come and go. The problem was the clown show in the White House. Bond market investors appear to have reached the same conclusion, but are far more gloomy about what that implies," close quotes. So the question is, can Europe get the measure of the aforementioned clown show as it looks to avoid an escalating transatlantic tariff war? Although Mr. Trump will continue to try to divide and rule dealing with the EU, Brussels was undoubtedly wise to sign up to Giorgia Meloni's bilateral meeting with him earlier this month, even though it yielded nothing substantive. What it may have done is help clear the path to an EU-US summit, possibly back-to-back with the Netherlands-hosted NATO summit in June. This could be the best chance finally to get Ursula von der Leyen, to whom Mr. Trump has not even spoken since the start of his second term, in the same room as the US president. But can officials in Brussels, who in common with their Japanese counterparts are scrabbling to nail down Washington's real red lines, can they come up by then with something both parties could agree to? After all, as I suggested in my first video cast, the EU is hardly likely to throw in the towel on digital taxes, let alone VAT, even if it might be willing to do so on barred US farm products and SUVs, safe in the knowledge that there's no real market for such in Europe in any case. From Brussels' perspective, the good news is that it should not need to make major concessions. It is certainly not a pain-free option economically for Europe, but if the Europeans stick together and keep their retaliation proportionate and gradual, i.e. consistent with the Commission's current plan, they undoubtedly now have the stronger cards, to use one of Mr. Trump's favourite analogies, thanks to the bond market, even, and perhaps especially, if the US were to reimpose reciprocal tariffs on 9 July. Nevertheless, any EU-US agreement is going to require Mr. Trump's love of a deal to get the better of his deeply ingrained animus towards Europe in addition to his seemingly equally deeply held belief that he can bring manufacturing back wholesale to the US through tariffs. It is not impossible that a summit in June could see this happen, but I doubt it. In short, I strongly suspect that where we find ourselves today is in the transatlantic trade equivalent of the Phoney War in the early days of World War II, and that the worst is therefore still to come. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.